3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to the Broadcast to Post podcast, where we break down the tools, tech, and workflows shaping the future of media production. I'm your host, Michael Kamas with Key Code Media. And if this is your first time listening, a quick reminder, Key Code Media is more than just a reseller. We're a trusted systems integrator for broadcast, AV, and media production workflows. So whether you're building out a new TV studio, a control room, screening space, or a post-production suite, our team helps you find the right gear and design the right workflow, plus support you long after installation. We also provide exclusive discounts on equipment from Blackmagic Design, EditShare, Telestream, SNS, LucidLink, Pixit Media, and over 400 other partners. And the best part? We offer free consultation to make sure you're set up for success on your next project. Now, today's episode is all about Davinci Resolve 20. It's been about 3 months since the launch, and the initial buzz has had some time to settle. That makes this the perfect time to ask which of the new features are actually proving to be the most useful for editors and in real-world workflows. What hidden gems might still be flying under the radar, and what updates show the most potential as the industry leans further into AI-driven editing, color, and finishing. Now, to help us unpack all of that, I'm joined by Shawn Carlson from Blackmagic Design, who's been hands-on with Resolve 20 since day one. Shawn, welcome back. It must have been a busy summer with the launch. How have you been holding up?
Thanks for having me, Michael. Yeah, you're right. It's there's been a lot of buzz actually around Resolve 20. A lot of the new features that are in the AI space are what we like to call, assistants. And I'm happy to walk you through most of those today. Several in the editorial context, and we're going to look at some in the edit page, some in the Fairlight page, some in the color page, to try to get a random smattering of some of the new tools.
Well, I don't know if we'd call it random, but there are a lot to show, and we did have to go through the list of what to show and say, how can we pick the cream of the crop? So with that being said, let's just jump in and let's see what you got.
Sounds good. Thanks so much. And yes, as we jump in, I've kind of organized these tools in the way that we'd like to present them. So we'll start with some of the basic editorial tools. And I think the first things first, we have to look at our transcription engine. Now, I've already got a few things set up here in this particular example. But I want to show that when I look across my bin of content, I have a number of different ways of viewing this content right now. Just to give you a little anchor on what I'm looking at, I tend to look at my content here in a number of different ways. This one being very simply organized by column layout. So let me pop this into this metadata view. You can see thumbnail, information, some metadata, but I tend to look at list mode, and I just turn on my film strip. It gives me the ability to, hover over this clip, very simply mark, in and out ranges right on it, make some editorial decisions. Okay, so one of these decisions that we get to make on content like this is, let me just double click to load it. So you see, we have these icons up here at the top right, and also this is triggered via right-click contextual menu. But if I just have this clip selected and I choose the transcription options, again, there are some more options to select, like speaker detection. So let's go ahead and enable speaker detection on this clip and transcribe. What we end up with is the AI transcription, listening to the content in its current language, determining what has been said, who is speaking it. It brings up this secondary window. This window actually is acting as both a source side selection window as well as a timeline window. And as you can see, I'm currently looking at the source side, but there's the timeline options below here indicated as well, right? So as I switch between where they exist in a timeline and where they are currently in my selection view. So in the selection view, this is my source viewer. You can see as I make a selection across this content, right? I'm selecting just this block that she says, today we're joined by Javid and And, Novo, let's hear if this is correct, because,
Coming. So can you just give us a little brief about...
Now let's just go ahead and play for
And
a while.
I'm Sarah Armstrong-Smith. We're going to be talking about the biggest challenges when it comes...
Right, so we're currently looking at Sarah. So clearly the only selection we need to make on this angle would be a clip of Sarah's dialogue. And as I select that clip, it's actually marked in outrange right here in my media pool page. And the media pool, it's indicating in my source viewer, which is going to reflect in my media pool once I've done something. Now the action is correctly right here is to create a subclip, and that clip is the text-to-speech editorial function, right? So now I can make trims from here. I can actually identify the speaker. She says her name is Sarah. I'm going to type Sarah in here. Well, actually, I'm going to type Sarah in here, and then we're going to allow it to hit enter instead of escape away from it. So now having identified Sarah.
Is all the transcription being done locally on your machine, or is it actually reaching out to the cloud and having the transcription done there?
Great question, because in this case, all this processing is happening locally. So one of the things you'll notice is that the transcription takes just a second to spool, and then uses the processing power of your system. You'll see a timer that indicates the countdown of how long that's going to take. Having generated this transcription, now I'm in text-based editing selections. I have some very quick options like export subtitles, which will automatically send the SRT or the format that we choose as a separate file. The ability then to remove the silent portions if we have a lot of ums and ahs, a lot of pauses in here. It will simply X out the silent portions. This is quite useful if we're creating a string out across all of the content, and we'd just like to take these pauses out. That function of removing silent portions would remove that section right there from the timeline. So I'm going to go ahead and undo this because I want to work on this lower timeline for a second. The other option is very quick. We can export to a simple text document from that. So we have a number of ways, and it'll drop the the time code and all that information on there for you. Excellent stuff. So AI transcription, say that we use the same tools. I'm looking at this timeline. It's called AI Voice Convert. So I've created Smart Bin. If I right click and choose this option, you'll see that I have a number of things that are available to me from the submenus, right? The timelines-based submenu includes, a lot of things about the individual timeline settings, as well as the import and export options. So I can import a new timeline. I can export this timeline as a number of different exchange formats. And if you look, we've somewhat, organized the tools and how they're being used based on, what you're looking at contextually. So here we are in the AI tools section. We have, speaker detection is enabled. We have transcribe as an option. All right. So moving back one step, we were looking at some of the options available to us from the transcription window, and the transcription window allows us the ability to look, as I mentioned, either at the clip or at the timeline where this is cut in. And as an example, because I've used this clip here. In fact, let me just go ahead and roll this all the way to the end. This is the source clip that I brought up to do the transcription test. Now, as a timeline, if I look at this as a timeline, this is the one that's highlighted, the one that's currently indicated. Hopefully you can see that I've got my right-click menu here, which contextual menu allows me a few other options, but I don't have to engage this contextual menu because just by having it selected, if I choose this option right here, that's my transcription window. Transcribing this as a timeline as opposed to a single clip, right, indicates that it remembers Sarah is the speaker for this clip. And, I'm Sarah Armstrong Smith. Marking it in this way marks it not only because I'm now in the timeline area, it marks it here across the timeline where that clip exists. So just know that you have a lot of control over this. let's also decide that we want to create our subtitles from audio. We've already got the audio transcribed. So let's go ahead and add the subtitles that we need. So create subtitles from audio. Subtitle default, right? You have a couple of presets here for that determine things like whether you have gaps in between the subtitles and number of characters per line. So we'll go ahead and say that. Having obviously pre-rendered this, it didn't need to calculate again. So you can see that here's the I'm Sarah Armstrong Smith section of this. Now, talking about some of the new AI tools in Resolve 20, because while transcription existed in a couple of versions, it just gets stronger and more feature-rich every version. One of the newest features that was included was, not just the ability to separate the speakers automatically and to keep that at adding those things as metadata, but we also can export these subtitles. But we've even got little effects here that we can do. So if I look at some of the things that you might have seen on other social media platforms where they've animated these subtitles, we do have the ability to, and as you can see, I'm again just sorting my toolbox. You'll find that everywhere you see this little looking glass, magnifying glass icon, you can click it and start to sort the window itself. So sorting by animated, perhaps you've seen things like,
And I'm Sarah Armstrong.
And I'm Sarah Armstrong Smith, where we have a word highlight every time we pop through the word, or let's do, the lollipop. You see what I'm doing here is essentially just dropping it onto the header of the track itself.
Welcome to Cyber Sisters podcast.
And there it is. Welcome to Cyber Sisters podcast. All right. So let's go ahead and look at what we've done to this, because adding this effect essentially does not prevent it from being, configurable, right? And if we look at the inspector again, because we've got something selected, and we look at the video tab of the inspector, this now will show me my particular, caption, right? Whichever one is selected. One thing you'll notice is that I have an override, a little checkbox right here that says customize caption. That's because if I don't override the individual caption, then I'm essentially changing all of them all at the same time, which is probably more often what you want to do. You see how it says caption or it says track. So if I move to the track, that's when I can do things like change my color, make this blue. Let's take the outline color and switch the outline color now to yellow or puce green there. That definitely sells it.
Shawn, that does bring up a question. You talked about different social media networks, and artistically, some folks may do captions different on different social media networks. But I also noticed that you're working on like a 16:9 right now. So what about doing something in other social media formats that have their own, shall we say, safe zones or overlays to make sure we don't step on their interface?
Yeah, no, these are good questions, Michael. Thanks for that. Obviously, social media primarily, I think is being delivered to this vertical format now. Outside of the what should we say, more traditional horizontal, like the YouTube places. The tube of you, as people are saying. But yes, if you see with this little thing open at the top, I actually have a little quick menu where I can choose between the options. But if you just look at, holistically, we look over the top of how Resolve organizes these. And that starts in the project settings. So if we look at the project settings, the first thing we're looking at is on the left-hand tabs, the primary or master settings here are listing the timeline format, the video output format, some of your cache media. One thing you'll notice is that there's this little indicator that says any modifications don't particularly impact the current timeline because we have per timeline settings. So as a general rule, this is what the project is currently set for, but the timelines themselves have their own settings. So if I get to the timeline submenu and I open a timeline settings for specifically this timeline, you can see that I have full control to convert a number of those attributes, right? Well, one of them right there is to say that I'm going to switch to vertical resolution on this timeline. This is the one that has to go out to, a 9:16 format. And then if that's the case, you can see that it switched it 1080 width, 1920 height. And switch your monitor out as well if you don't. Otherwise, you're going to get black bars. But that's just a video output option anyway. So if I do that, and scale full frame with crop is basically just saying there's no resizing on anything, and we'll take the full height of that video and now crop the width. So what has happened with this is it's automatically formatted. You'll see that Resolve has actually even changed the layout now slightly to show me my viewers with a narrower width, right? So that it presents me the option of viewing this in a native aspect, perhaps, to my deliverable. Now, having done so, I probably do need to focus on this person who's talking. And that's a function that we have here underlying in the video side. So if you look at the transform underneath the video tab here with this clip selected, I have something called the AI Smart Reframe. Now, object of interest is currently set to auto, mode is set to auto. But if I switch this over to reference point, you'll see that I can make the determination about what I think needs to be in the frame. The mode is pan only, tilt only, or auto. Chances are they're not moving in this frame at all. I can just say pan. But I have a suspicion that if I leave this on auto, I'm going to get a pretty good result as well. So let's go ahead and hit reframe. The analysis on the clip, repositions my clip in drops in these keyframes. Now, let's go ahead and open the keyframes panel. This is one of my favorite new features inside Resolve 20, by the way. It's not one of the flashiest features with the AI tools, but certainly incredibly useful feature. Now, what I've just dropped is position XY keyframes automatically, because that's what is essentially being added to the clip as it's being adjusted. And so with these keyframes, you can navigate between the keyframes. You can see that as you add keyframes in between, it automatically does the tweening for you. Right now, I'm currently looking at the parameters of the keyframes, right, which is to expose all of those separate parameters for transform, crop, composite, etc. But if you look, I have two different views here. I have keyframe lanes, and then I have this other keyframe curve view. Now, keyframe curves are to take the attributes and to make a different relationship between them. And as you can see, as I select that, that's because I clearly have a Bezier handle that allows me access to, breaking the handle and altering the way that I adjust that. Looking at some of the ways that we've highlighted, the transcription tool, the ability to generate captions from that, drop subtitles on here, animate them. The other AI-based tools would be incredibly useful to demonstrate how that continues. All right, so what we're looking at is in a multicam view. If I switch this into multicam, I'd like to show you that we have this 3-up view, these 3 cameras, and they all take turns speaking. It seems pretty easy to tell where we should cut. Now, what we end up with is a new function here, and that's called Multicam SmartSwitch that makes some determinations based on the content that we can see. So let's open up Multicam SmartSwitch. I like to work with this SmartSwitch with the least amount of duration that I can get away with. The wide angle frequency in this case, we have 3 individual ISO angles. We don't really have a 4th angle that would be the wide shot of all 3 of them. But if we had, that's the wide angle that we would use for the intro and outro. That's the wide angle that we use in any silent pauses. So these are not really relevant to this particular example. Just know that you can set them based on the way that you need to record. And then switch video only or video and audio. In some cases, if we're going to be using separate ISOs and they have their own mics, you'd want to switch them both. In cases where you've got a multicam setup that you've used a reference audio track, then you would choose the video only option. And then again, quality set to better or faster. So let's go ahead and turn, the edit change delay down and the minimum edit duration down, and then hit analyze. Okay, I guess that was done. There was no counter. There was no Jeopardy song to hum along with.
How
in
fast
this
is your
case.
machine, Shawn?
I mean, it's just a regular old Mac Studio, so I'm sure that I can find a way to make this slower for you. The next example. Okay.
Just so I can catch up.
Yeah. Yeah, as you can see, it's made a couple of cuts for me already, right?
Okay.
You hear I'm Lisa Forte,
Armstrong
and I'm
Smith.
Sarah Armstrong Smith, and we've already obviously made the proper cut. But the benefit of this is that these are just cuts. These are just the angles that are underlying in this multicam that we've created. And if it's made a mistake,
Well, hi, Javid.
Hiya.
right? Like I think I'd like to roll that a little bit differently. Well, we can just decide to, to roll the track separately. I'm going to go ahead and grab my mouse. If I were to grab this clip and just drag over as it snaps because I have snapping enabled, by the way, and I can toggle that off. But as it snaps, as you can see, it's just,
Hiya. Thanks for having me.
I can fix the edit if it wasn't exact.
It's a little brief about.
Just a little brief
So
about who
it's
you
an
are.
AI assisted starting point, because if you want to do a J cut, you would go in there and alter the audio or video independently as a creative, as an artist, instead of just saying, here AI. It's just giving you a starting point.
Yep, exactly. And there you go. Since you called for it, we made you a J cut. Okay, where we proceed to hear.
Hi, Javid.
Hiya.
Hi, Javid. Hi, thanks for having me. Right, so we can hear the cut now. Again, this is the same audio on all of it, so we're gonna hear it anyway. But yes, you're right. We would absolutely have the control over this as an editor to go ahead and make with the polished edits properly. And I think same thing over here. We kind of lead. We kind of lead in a little bit here as well with a J cut. We just don't have the J indicated. So having done this Multicam SmartSwitch, that's one of the great, assistant tools that's basically not creating the edit for you, but it's certainly getting you most of the way there. Say we've locked this now. We want to flatten the multicam. Well, the benefit of this new option is that, we can retain the grades if we've already given it a grade, or we can copy multicam grades if we've given the multicam clip a grade, essentially, since that just lives as metadata over the top. So retain the original grades. This is now a flattened clip. So when we turn it over, we just have individual clips. We don't have, this compiled multicam, if you will. And then, of course, that also means that, every clip, when we match frame, every clip just goes right back to the original source. So we don't have to worry about not being able to find the original angles. And again, we can always find the media pool. We can point back to the original angles, which if we were looking at, these are the three angles that I chose. Right click, I said new multicam, and I've told it that we wanted to lock on its source frame rate because it was shot at 25 with time code, and we used source audio channels. But since I'm talking multicam, I wanted to show this field as well. You can see that reference audio is an option, as well as adaptive tracks. You can just decide how many channels. And then angle name, if you wanted to pull, say, the metadata angle from those angles, low shelf, wide, whatever. Move source clips to original clips. This would just take these three clips from my media pool and stick them in a new bin, call them, original clips. Detect clips from same camera. This is really useful if in this 3-camera shoot that we're looking at, they shot on a 128 card on one camera and 256s on the other two. And so the 128 stops halfway through recording, and then they have to start it up again. Instead of generating a new angle from that multicam, when it picks up again, it just recognizes that's the same angle, but there's a gap in between. So your timeline will just show a gap where there was nothing. And then that's what I did. I clicked create, and that generated this multicam right here. So this is actually the multicam clip that then I dropped into the timeline. And then from that source clip in multicam view is how I'm viewing it. All right. So just FYI, that's how we got to where we are now. Okay. Now moving from these tools, which are, AI-based assistants. This was for, rough editorial in the multicam world. We can move into some other tools that we might need in editorial, like the voice convert, which I had open at the beginning, but we didn't really examine what we were doing with it yet. So let's go ahead and show you this real quick. And hopefully, if I've got this up enough, you can hear the sound. What's happening here, and you can see it cut through. I'll just zoom in a little bit to my timeline so you can kind of see the cuts. Okay. This is the source audio, right? And then I've chosen to right click, voice convert, and I've selected in this case the female 1 US type match and pitch change none. And here we go.
We tell stories about humans and wildlife and the line where those two meet.
We tell stories about humans and wildlife and the line where those two meet.
Okay, so you can tell that we've changed the voice. We did this one more time and we picked another voice. And
our focus as a production company is character-led and hosted documentary series that tell the stories of people on the front line of conservation and people who are dedicating their lives to conserving wild places.
all right, so that's voice convert. Now, convert is a really interesting tool that we can engage, as I said, by right-clicking here and choosing voice convert, picking between the voice models, the two voice models, female 1 and 2, male 1 and 2 US, that we have available, 2 different variations. And then
And these are completely available to use. No, there's no rights limitation. You can use them for commercial projects, no problem.
Correct. Yeah, these are the ones included, and they're included in the studio version, and the license is included with studio. These are the language models that we've built for you. But you'll notice that you also have another option here, which is available to the downloads manager. I might show downloads manager, and hopefully that window pops open as well. Okay, with downloads manager open, you'll see that I've added the additional AI voice training option. So now voice training, as well as extended AI transcription support, that's additional libraries that I downloaded and installed to Resolve. Voice training would be listed from the media side. So if I had a clip of myself and I wanted to train Davinci Resolve on the sound of my voice, God forbid I should try to record myself, then I would use Davinci AI voice training, which is an additional option. And then if you have the rights to use this, as you can see, it's asking us, are you sure you have rights to doing this? Then you agree, right? Now this does require an upload to the training, and but this is your new voice model, your option for training it, the choice of the clip that I choose to upload for processing to this, and then the result of which is after processing, I can select that from the voice convert option here instead of the voice model. I'd be able to choose my voice model that I've trained. Now,
You mentioned uploading it. Are there tokens? Are there credits? Is it just included in the price of Studio, or how does that work?
yes, this is actually included in the price of Studio. There are no tokens or credits that are separate from this function. There was something introduced at NAB in the new release video for Resolve 20. It was sort of a proof of concept function, and that included more potential options in the future that might require things like tokens or a third-party service. In this case, this is something that's right here inside Davinci Resolve, and you can train your own voice and then record to it. I can envision a place where in the field I'm recording temp, or perhaps I'm just doing some editorial here, and I need to quickly scratch in some voiceover, or I need to do a reread on something that we know we're going to have read in ADR. So in that case, I think using my voice convert model gives me an additional option that I didn't have. Right, we have a number of AI-based cleaning tools, and I want to go into that next, definitely, so you can see. Because we have, dialogue leveler, dialogue cleaning, essentially, the voice isolation capabilities that are inside, the Resolve AI tools now. But also there's some music remixing tools that are incredibly useful to editorial. But one thing about the voice isolation is if I'm in a noisy environment and I'm recording my temp track, I can then swap that out with my voice, whether I use my voice or these two included voices here. The AI-based voice convert will simply be my voice and will have stripped out all of the background noise that might have been in my recording. So
That's
it's only
a
listening
great
to my
workaround.
text, right?
Yeah.
So if you have something noisy and there's background and it's hammered and you can't clean it, voice convert will simply listen to what you've said and re-speak it with no background. So
That's a great, I don't want to call it a hack, but that's a great workflow hack.
yeah, it is somewhat like a hack, I guess, right? It's, maybe an unthought of, function of what the voice convert can do. So, so you can see that voice convert is working really, really smoothly. Let me go ahead and move on into the voice isolation and the dialogue. So now again, you can see the FX listed here with this thumbnail indicated. So you can tell that voice isolation is on. In fact, my voice dialogue, the dialogue level is on as well on this clip. Look at the inspector to know whether it's engaged. So this clip has none of these engaged. So let's go ahead and start by playing this clip down.
It's really nice. The gap camera has the color space, like all the BT70 and all the Rec 709s, integrated into the camera app. It's really nice how the Blackmagic Gap camera has the color space, like all the BT70 and all the Rec 709s, integrated into the camera app.
So you could probably hear that played back to back, the noise print that got removed. It's
All the BT70
incredibly noisy
and
background,
Rec 709s, integrated into the camera app.
and that would be this section right here.
And all the Rec 709s integrated into the camera app.
So all I've done is use the AI voice isolation, which has a simple slider. In fact, there's just a little option here for the preset, in fact. So if you wanted to create a preset and save presets and toggle between them, you can. There's a preset manager as well that kind of controls all of your presets for all the different plugins that you've got. Important to know where to find those and how to set them. Then if you look, the AI dialogue leveler is the other tool that I've got enabled right now. And reducing loud dialogue, lift soft dialogue, and background reduction is set right now. But I can toggle that off and let you hear that.
It's really nice how the Blackmagic Gap camera has the color.
AI voice isolation is doing most of the heavy lifting on that clip.
Now, a lot of these AI tools for audio, are they found just within the edit page, or are you also finding them in Fairlight as well?
Most of the tools that I'm engaging so far have been the edit page, but there are a number of them that are based in the Fairlight page, or the Fairlight page would be the place that you might find them to be the most, obviously useful. And that includes, if you look under, say, timeline or the other AI tools, the audio assistant is one that's an edit page tool. That's also a Fairlight page tool. And then the other things like voice isolation, dialogue leveler, you can tell that, once we move into the full digital audio workstation of Fairlight, we obviously have much greater granularity across all of these, tools that are available, right? So as I zoom in, and then say we just wanted to trim in on this clip, or if I just grab it with my mouse and start trimming, you can see the level with which I can trim, the granularity that I can trim in a subframe level. But if I go all the way into where I can see the samples, well, in this case, I can actually go in and make, sub-sample options here within my trim. These are the kinds of things that I'm not going to be able to see at that resolution when I move back to the edit page, because I'm looking in subframe on the edit page, but without the granularity of a sample. This is about a 2,000th of a frame, roughly, based on its, frame rate and the audio at 48K. Mm-hmm. So I may be looking at a 60th to 100th of a frame based on my screen redraw, refresh, and the resolution of that, within the edit page. As you can see, zooming all the way into the edit page, there's the width of the whole frame.
Right.
Same thing on the Fairlight page, and you can see, here's a whole frame moving. again, right? So you can tell just how much further in I can get on the Fairlight page for this. So let's go to I went to the voice isolation. I want to go to the dialogue match. Dialogue matching is going to try to listen to
getting feedback from trusted partners and fellow artists.
The level in the room tone of this particular recording.
Feedback from trusted partners and fellow artists.
And clearly they were recorded in 2 different locations.
This is
and we want this room tone to match.
This bad boy. This is a master class.
And so we do have a few tools. We spoke about how we can turn on the dialogue leveler, which does allow us some options for the dynamics changing here. But one of the things that I wanted to show in this is that on a clip level, we also have the ability to do a dialogue print, rather a dialogue level like a print match. So if I select this clip and we look at this clip menu, we go to the AI tools and we choose dialogue matcher, capture, dialogue profile. And then we're going to this clip over here, and we're gonna go ahead and select again, clip, same tool, dialogue matcher, apply dialogue profile. Having applied the profile, what we're gonna hopefully hear is that we have made the room tone sound a little bit more narrow and close. It's a much wider open space here and a lot of reflective audio. So
feedback from trusted partners and fellow artists.
Store minis, and you can transfer proxies to them seamlessly.
as opposed to...
Look at this bad boy. This is a master.
It's probably too subtle to hear even still, but this is the process, the clip menu, AI-based tools, dialogue matcher, we're going to capture and apply. And of course, in this case, with this clip selected, I can remove the applied profile, or I can just temporarily disable it as well. So if we found that it wasn't particularly helpful, then definitely we can do it that way. Now let's do some, looks like
music. I would assume there'd be some AI tools for music.
Let's do some music, definitely. One of the new editing features that I like in the AI space includes the music remixing options. Now we have this, music remixer and music editor tools, and when a clip is selected, they'll appear in the inspector. So if we look up here under the music remixer and music editor tools, here they are. And if I choose, say, a target length for this clip on the music editor, say I just want to make this 90 seconds after all, right? So let's adjust it. We're going to take this clip. It's going to offer me a few options after the analysis pass. And you can see the speed with which my analysis pass is happening here. It's looking at all of it. Now here, very important to notice that it created a roughly 90-second clip. I asked it for 90 seconds. It gave me 94:11. Now, what it's also done is given me 4 options, or at least these 4 version below, and we'll see if they're all engaged. But here, let's just zoom in. You can see where it's made the cuts, right? That was a seamless edit, of course. Now let's go to the next one. Right, so that's the way that it's decided, version 1. Version 2, however, made the cut earlier and just left a whole chunk of it. Let's hear that. Right, so version 2. Version 3, again, put cuts in different places. Right, and again. And of course, version 4. right? So you can hear. They're seamless every time. Now, what
They all
that
sound
gives you,
completely usable. I mean, we used to say in the audio world, it doesn't sound better, it sounds different. And you're right, the cuts were seamless. So you have 4 options, and all of them seem to play. I guess it would all be up to the creative decision as to where you want the crescendos to hit and choruses to kick in. So that's fantastic.
yeah, exactly. You can, of course, customize that because this is now in this essentially, trimmed AI music editor version. And, what we can do is that we can keep this live essentially and turn on live trimming. It gives us the option of saying, well, you know what? I really only need something that's about 75 seconds long. So let me go ahead and grab the end of this, and trim it off to just roughly the timing that I think I need, right? And allow it to recalculate and find me a new duration again. So now I asked it for roughly 75. I've got 78. If I really needed to trim it further, I might have to go in a little closer than that and add up a minute 10. But you can see that it's automatically adjusting the edit points for me in this version. Now that's the ability to do the music editing. But what we've added here in the music remixing is really great. In this case, we don't have any dialogue that we needed to dump out, but individually, we can drop any of these attributes just with a single click, or we have a slider. Now, if I pop the little thing open so you can see, this is yet another one of those that can have different presets set. All I have to do is click this button to add one, save it here. Voice, drums, bass, guitar, and other. So let's just go ahead and listen to this for a minute. I just took the drum out. Now we just have a synth and a bass. Let's take the drums back. We took the bass out.
And is that keyframeable as well?
These aren't keyframeable, so I would suggest cuts where you need to make the changes. I've just done simple cuts to do changes so far, but keyframes would be a great option. I'll certainly feed that back and see if we can't make that happen.
I'm thinking, how many times have you gotten music where there may be horns or strings or some get stomps on the vocal range, and you want to just dip those down but keep just the bass or something?
You're right. Yeah, I mean, or just to to roll out something that comes in the wrong spot. Absolutely, that's where I've used the cuts, because you can enable any of these. So if I had split, if I'd split this clip into a chunk, as it were, and then I just take the drums out of this chunk, then we can effectively do the same thing. Well,
right.
I can't create the transition I wanted to, but I certainly have the ability to do it as a transition if I want to. So, having access to this transition and transition duration, and, as you can see, here's a new feature of 20.2, which I'm currently on. It's the current version of Resolve 20 Studio. When we drop into trim mode, just since I engaged this duration with my editor keyboard, and I'm holding the duration key down using the jog shuttle wheel, that engages our trim mode. And trim mode now, by default, unless we selected it in the preferences to turn that off, will use a single giant trim window. So we immediately move away from seeing a source record, and we now just see the source record as trim function. So here's my fade, right? So let's go ahead and say. Right? So there's the Michael Kamas edit, all right? That's the edit we make for you right there, because you say, hey, can we fade these? And yes, we can. So that's music remixing, right? The ability to pull those tracks out discreetly. That's the music retiming, which is our we call it something different. We call it AI music editor. But essentially, it controls the timing of this, and as you can see, gives us these segments now automatically, creating those in 4 different versions, and enabled with live trim, we can just kind of recreate that to our heart's content. So moving from some of these more editorial uses, let's go into some of the really neat tools that have been updated in, say, the color page when we look at the AI Magic Mask. Now let's go ahead and get something useful, like something to pull. I think this one looks fine. And we've got nothing on this clip right here, nothing whatsoever. First things first, I happen to have the Color Warper Chromo Warp open, which is new to Resolve version 20. The previous version of this Color Warper included just the a different warp option. So Chromo Warp now a different way to, say, set the target color that you'd like to change by looking in the viewer. Hopefully you could see that, you know, my mouse changes into this little eyedropper tool, right? The qualifier tool. So having selected something, it shows up in the Color Warper, and then with the tool selection of either add stroke point to point or the generic one, which is add stroke normal mode, then I can do things like, you know, change a particular range or select the color that I'd like. In fact, that also offers me options to pin a color that I might want to pin so that it doesn't get changed. So the greens stay the same even if I start manipulating, you know, the blue and the magenta in this case. So that's just because it happened to be open, we're going to talk about it. Not one of the AI-based tools, but definitely incredibly useful for pulling secondaries. Now, AI Magic Mask version 2 is just here in this AI Magic Mask area. The previous way that the Magic Mask allowed us to make selections included separating between, say, a person and an object. And the new AI Magic Mask version 2 allows me now, instead of drawing a stroke to select the foreground that I need to mask, you know, or to make my first selection to determine foreground or background that I'm masking, I now click single dots to make my selection. And why this is important, I'll go ahead and turn this on, okay, so we can see the mask overlay. So mask overlay on, you can see that the first dot made the selection of his face, automatically made the selection of his face. Now, prior to this version, we would have to say we were looking for the face, and the face was something we'd like it to focus on. So that's obviously a change to the way that this works. Now, the other change is that since I also want to track the rest of his body, I don't just need to make an adjustment on, say, the qualities within the face, but I want to remove him from this background. A second click actually does that. It says, oh, great, we found the whole person for you. Now let's switch from faster to better, because what that's going to do is that's essentially going to give me just a little tiny bit better edge handling. And you'll see, even in cases like this free-flowing hair, it's pulled the free-flowing hair separately. So let's toggle mask overlay. And hopefully you can see that there is some red in the hair that was found out here, the little wispy hair. So it's really, really very effective, very accurate. Now, the only thing to do at this point is just to ask it to track. I started somewhere in the middle of the clip. As you can see, my playhead is not at the beginning or the end. That's also indicated here in the tracker tools. So that is when you use this one function, which is track forward and backwards. So we're going to click that function now, and we're going to track all of those strokes that it's asked us to, that we've asked it to find. So having actually done a little bit of this, you can see that here's the mask, and I didn't, you know, we didn't render the whole thing, but this magic mask, everywhere that I've shown it, is now available to make secondary corrections. So if I turn off that, here's one of the ways that we can, you know, show you that we've got this mask. Essentially, if I create an alpha output, you can see this is, you know, this is what's been pulled, and there's a little bit of light wrap going on, so there's kind of a soften edge right around the edges of the pixels there, a little blending. But that's, you know, now available to me either like I did here as, you know, to just quickly comp this person over something new, or in the case where I might use it as a secondary now, having created that, and to show, you know, as a highlight region in, you know, say high-con mode, right, where you can see this is the actual mask itself that Magic Mask created from that. That gives me the ability now to do all the other things that we want to do to it in the secondaries, like, anything we might do in the chroma warp area, as an example, anything we might do inside color wheels, or, using the custom curves. Now, as this is an example and I have it open, let's just go ahead and add all the default anchors to the custom curves. And then as I make adjustments to this, you can see I'm only affecting the area within my selection. So just go ahead and let's get him on a better frame, something where maybe he's looking at us. That would be good. All right. So the other thing that I can do, this kind of function with, right? Perhaps I wanted to take, add a node as an outside node to the alpha channel that I've already selected, right? I've made some corrections on the inside of the selection, but now taking the outside of the selection, I want to do some other things like, perhaps we just do something really obvious for you right away and take the saturation down, right? So as I slide the saturation slider, you can see that I'm only affecting the inverted area because I've asked for the outside node. You can, of course, invert your selection at any point, from within the Magic Mask area as well. These are the options for you here. And as you can see, I've turned off my overlay, so it's not showing up in this case. But if I turn overlay back on, now you would see this is clearly the inverted selection for my Magic Mask, and this node is the selection for my Magic Mask. Okay. One other fun thing that you'll notice, maybe you just noticed it now, in fact, is as I have the overlay on, that acts as a per node viewer output. Okay. This by default will show the combination of this flowchart of red, green, blue, RGB coming in, RGB going out, and ending up right here on the RGB output. That RGB output will feed back to the edit page. This is what we see in the color viewer. This is what we'll see in the edit page. This is what we'll see in the deliver page. So the one weird way that this interacts is that as I have the color, as I have the overlay enabled for my masked selection, the overlay enabling actually gives me a per node, kind of an individual preview. So if you have a multi-node layout right now, you can turn on the overlay for your mask selection and just go through individual nodes without seeing the combined output by turning it off. All right, just a little heads up. So now what we've done for Magic Mask is just to take, and let's go back into this node so you can see what's selected in my Magic Mask. The 2 clicks that I've made, click 1, click 2. If, however, I found that this didn't exactly grab everything I needed, or I needed to make additional selections, these tools over here, this is the add click option. If I move to the right, you'll see subtract. But then one more thing to the right of that is add paint stroke. So paint stroke gives me a completely different tool set. So if the paint stroke that I wanted to pull, because there was a hole in the mat somewhere over here, or it just didn't pick up all of his ear, as I zoom in, you'll see the paint stroke. Well, the paint stroke is adjustable as you hold the command or the control key down and then drag the mouse. You can see that I'm adjusting the size of my paintbrush for the stroke. That's going to add or subtract to the mask based on which one of these that you've used. Now, there's yet another over here, which is a brush slider. So again, if you've got the slider on, you can use that. If you've got the command and control options, then you can use command or control to do the same sizing right here on screen. Okay, so adding to this or subtracting from this is very simple. Now let's go ahead and make another version of this. Right click on this local version, create a new version, just call it version 2, and then we're going to, well, actually, I'm just going to reset it from right here. Right clicking in the empty space, reset all grades and nodes. I want to show you another option, which is in the resolve effects. And let's just go ahead and sort resolve effects by what I'm looking for. It's depth. Okay. So the depth map tool is another way of pulling a relationship and therefore a mask or a selection on this clip, but it's inferring the depth based on what's in context. So drag it over and you can see much faster way of getting a preview than the previous version. So AI depth map version 2, significantly faster. Let's move to, well, I'm already on better mode. Never mind. Resulting map adjustment, isolate specific depth, advanced, and map finesse. Okay, so as I just expand all of these options, you can see that, say, isolate particular depth, the target depth slider is going to be, really useful in picking exactly what it is I want, right? As well as the tolerance, what is and is not included in that depth, and then the softness range of the edge of that. Because in this case, as a secondary, I may not need to be really specific. It may not be the need of the Magic Mask version 2 to get that, granular, or to get a really refined edge. But perhaps I want to pull them back. This is just creating a secondary so that I can show them a little bit more prominently. Depth map preview is on, so let's turn that off, and you can see this is what's happened now. Let me go ahead and just do something with like the color wheels, and hopefully you can see what I'm looking at. Let's go to show you this. All right. So what I'm going to do is I've isolated the specific depth. This is the only range that I'm actually going to be changing. So as I change the lift and the gamma slider, you can see that I'm kind of bringing him back to life a little bit. A little greater contrast on him, but also a little bit. Now you can use these in conjunction with other tools, because as we can see in this highlight mode, this is really just a selection, right? And in some cases you might even need to use the other selection tools, like adding on or subtracting with a window. And so in that case, on this in particular, I can decide that maybe I want to just add. Right, I can add a new selection. I can add another power window. It's just a matter of which tool that I feel like I need to add. So let's go ahead and right, so you can see the result of adding a power window here to my selection is to have replaced my selection. But the difference is that as you switch between your choices, you've got the ability to remove or add and there, right, there's the combined matte. This is what we were just able to do, adding a simple little polygon curve to just refine the matte. The isolation found that tree was just coming in a little too much in the in the selection. Again, I also have matte finesse like post filter, right, and contract expand. This is kind of an overall, so if I wanted to expand the edges or contract the edges, hopefully you can see, yes, you ought to be able to see that working at this resolution. And then the post filter is also kind of like a little edge masking, kind of a little light wrap, if you will. So looking at the adjust map levels is also a way to determine the near and far limit, right? That brings these things and trims things out based on their proximity, right? So you can see cycling through that. This is the proximity that I like the most, so we can also adjust with these adjust map levels. And then, as we did so inside the Magic Mask version, we did with an outside node, we can do the same thing with this inversion, where we can invert the entirety of our selection. And let's drop back into normal mode so you can see that toggling the AI depth map off and on takes the selected adjustment to his face and kind of applies it to the whole node. Because essentially I have a gamma adjustment, slight gamma adjustment, slight lift adjustment. So let's make that more pronounced. Okay. And then toggling depth map on and off. See that we're either isolating the gentleman or we're allowing him to blend back into this. and the isolation, brings the focus that we need. So that's one of the ways to use AI depth map as a secondary selector. It's kind of like a choice between the magic mask and the depth map for the types of things that you might need to mask. The magic mask is really good on recognizing the objects that you've selected. So in cases where we were looking at a different look, like let's go to Multicam SmartSwitch. Right, let's go back over here to this clip. Just move my keyboard and go to the magic mask. Right, magic mask on this or this, and enable this. Okay, so again, you can see the uses here, and in this case, here's a great example of something that we're in faster mode, not better mode, but there is magic mask not quite certain if we should pull this piece or if this piece needs to be removed. So I can actually assist and tell it this is a stroke that we don't need. So I can remove that from the selection. And then of course I can do the same thing, which is I happen to be on the first frame of this clip, and you're not always going to be on the first frame of this clip where you can just decide that you would like to, track forward, if you will. So normally I would say track forward and reverse. That's going to do both. In this case, it's just going to track forward once and stop. And you can see that, as I didn't switch it from faster to better, we'll have to make more adjustments on what it thought it should pull. But there he is. And again, here's the mask in faster mode. So depending on, which version you need, if it's the magic mask or it's the depth map, right, to pull the secondary that we're hoping for. Let's go ahead and adjust him here. Isolate a specific depth. Right. Bring him back. All right. So now having done that, let's go ahead and use the invert on him. Turn that off and desaturate. Right. All right, so as you can see, we've just found a number of different ways, with the AI depth map or the AI magic mask tool to create secondary isolation that we need, in this case for something, quite obvious as a desat, so you can see where everything is working. You can figure out, in which cases it's best to use whichever one you need, depending on how you need to route it. But again, they're both the same alpha output options, so if you did need to comp over things, you have the ability to do so. So moving on to one of the other really cool AI tools that I find for an editor is something that you can engage in the editing page, right? Edit or cut in this case, and also the Fairlight page. So since we have a Fairlight page, full digital audio workstation, I might show you in the Fairlight page so we can get there. And here's what we have. Let's go ahead and launch this function right away. We do so on the timeline. Okay, so that's either a right-click option, or as you can see my contextual menu, you can see there's an AI tools option there, but it's probably easier to find if we just look up here under the timeline menus, AI tools, audio assistant. And engaging audio assistant is really the only thing that we have to do. It brings up a dialog box that asks us, what's our deliverable format? Are we delivering out to, ATSC? Are we going out to a streamer OTT like, Netflix? Do we have a particular format in mind with regard to the normalization and the levels, like the standard broadcast options? So you pick your choice, and we're going to pick, say, YouTube, because this is our YouTube masterpiece, and delivery standard set there. We're going to go through the auto mix, which, as you can see, is going to listen to everything. It's going to automatically classify all of our content, and then it's going to attempt to smooth over and mix the elements against itself. That includes the music, as you can see, music mix, sound effects and ambience. Then final mastering, it's doing its normalization pass, reducing the loud sounds for, the loudness units full scale it has to deliver to, whatever you've set. in this case. You can see it up at the top of this menu here. Netflix is selected. And we're getting quite the granular AI assistant feedback here from this dialogue. It says shaping music. It's great. There it is. Normalization pass. It's listening. In this case, it's going to do every one of these 5 sections separately. And depending on the length of your content and the speed of your system is going to determine how quickly it's doing that. And again, based on your earlier questions, these are processing locally. So if you have, important dialogue and or script that you don't want to go to a third party, this is processing on your own system. There's no uploading involved in this. And then the result of which...
My name is Vernon Ozturk. I'm a filmmaker in the adventure, documentary, and commercial space. A lot of our bread and butter over the years has been these National Geographic expeditions. And this time we got the call to go to Saunders Island, just above Antarctica. Our goal was to help a team of...
All right. So what you can see is that it's made a lot of these choices for us. In fact, if I zoom in, it's even added some fade handles. Now, there are fade handles at the head and tail of every clip. So if you just see what this one looks like, let's go ahead and grab this area real quick. You can see the fade handle as I move my mouse over to it. One of the things that I noticed listening to this is I probably wanted to fade it a lot slower than that. So let's go ahead and drag the fade handle. So the assistant side of this is analyzing everything, reorganizing my tracks, automatically naming them, coloring them, creating the organizational structure here for turnover, and softening them. But it leaves me all of the finesse tools, right? Everything that I need to do to finish this on the way out to deliver my final piece is here. In fact, as I move all the way through the process to the deliver page, and I get, say, to the audio side, you can see that if normalization wasn't something that I had just done at that stage while we determine that we're delivering to a YouTube profile, it's something that I can actually choose on output as well. Normalize audio to standard or optimize to standard. It's just a better way of making those individual determinations about where we're going. And again, are we choosing the sample peak, true peak, or should we go to the deliverable format that we need for our output? So those are some of the best AI tools in Resolve 20. And, I hope you've learned something today. And I want to thank you all for joining me. And I want to thank you all for having me on your program today. So thanks so much.
You're very welcome. And to remind everyone, this is available now. Version 20.2 is what's currently shipping. And that's available from the Blackmagic Design website. You could download it, work with the new tools, and see how these new AI tools actually help you as an assistant, as opposed to doing the editing for you. So, Shawn, once again, thank you very much. Thank you, Blackmagic, and we'll see you on the next podcast.
Thanks.